New Zealand rarely features in headlines about diplomatic disputes with its neighbours, a reflection both on New Zealand's essential affability and the fact that you would have to go a distance out of your way, physically and politically, to have much of a ruck with any other countries in the vicinity, which are either remote, small and generally meek Pacific Island states, or are Australia, with which New Zealand occasionally bickers about matters pertaining to cricket, or which of them invented the sticky meringue confection known as the pavlova. This was Australia, obviously, although in the spirit of trans-Tasman fraternity, right of reply will be magnanimously extended to Monocle's Deputy New Zealand Desk Chief, Flynn Simons.
No, it wasn't.
Thanks, Flynn. Lately, however, New Zealand has managed to conduct flaps verging on outright spats with two other South Pacific nations, the Cook Islands and Kiribati. Before we get too far into this, it is probably important in these febrile times to issue reassurance that, at the risk of tempting fate, etc., it seems unlikely that any aircraft or gunboats will be dispatched, not least as New Zealand doesn't really have any. Despite the fact that New Zealand is responsible for one of Earth's largest exclusive economic zones, the Royal New Zealand Air Force has no fighter jets, and the Royal New Zealand Navy's surface fleet does not clear double figures. Indeed, was reduced further last October when HMNZS Manawanui, a hydrographic survey ship, hit a reef and sank off Samoa. Regional security and so forth is kind of a subplot here, so this is not altogether incidental detail. Nevertheless, probably no urgent need for listeners in the Cook Islands or Kiribati, or Nauru or Tuvalu for that matter, to begin stringing barbed wire along their beaches in anticipation of Kiwi landing craft. Although, for what it may be worth, one excitable commentator in the New Zealand Herald this week did advocate a military solution to what he characterised as the Cook Islands crisis. New Zealand's rows with the Cook Islands and Kiribati are separate but kind of related. The Cook Islands brouhaha, crisis we contend is a reach, at least as of this recording, is complicated by the fact that the Cook Islands is sort of part of New Zealand except to the extent that it sort of isn't. It was effectively a colony of New Zealand until 1965 but does now elect its own government. It does not, however, have a seat at the United Nations, and its maybe 15,000 people are also citizens of New Zealand, where more Cook Islanders actually live. I once spent like 48 hours in the Cook Islands on one of those magazine assignments that seemed sensible in the 1990s. Ask me anything. Anyway, New Zealand has this week been startled to discover that Cook Islands Prime Minister Mark Brown is travelling to Beijing this week to put pen to a comprehensive strategic partnership with China. And that was after New Zealand was startled to discover that Brown had ideas about issuing a Cook Islands passport. New Zealand outmanoeuvred Brown on the passports by declaring that Cook Islanders could have a Cook Islands passport or a New Zealand one, but not both. Not a choice that was ever likely to prompt lengthy, eager queues at Cook Islands post offices. New Zealand is finding it harder to engage on Brown's strategic partnership with China, not least because Brown did not deign to tell New Zealand what will be in it, beyond a few vague blandishments to the effect that it will not pertain to defence or security. However, neither New Zealand nor Australia would react altogether indifferently to, for example, the prospect of a Chinese-built seaport on the Cook Island of Rarotonga, and nor should they. All Chinese infrastructure spending abroad is strategic, and in the Pacific it is obviously part of a contest with Australia, New Zealand and the United States. Recall the conniptions occasioned in 2022 when the Solomon Islands agreed a security arrangement with Beijing. Where Kiribati is concerned, the parameters of the row are easier to delineate. The key protagonist is Winston Peters, New Zealand's Deputy Prime Minister, a fixture of Kiwi politics of several decades standing, and a man who has well earned a reputation for being the sort of chap who could start a fight in an empty room, or as the case may be, a nearly empty ocean. A few weeks back, Peters was due to travel to Kiribati to meet the president thereof, Taneti Mamu. President Mamu cancelled at shortish notice, prompting Peters to harumph that New Zealand would review the not inconsiderable development aid it gives to Kiribati. This will also have pricked ears in Beijing. Kiribati has a population of 120,000, an exclusive economic zone about the size of India, and a total naval capability consisting of one unarmed patrol boat. If New Zealand won't help Kiribati, China will be happy to. Such is the dynamic that vexes the bigger, wealthier countries of the Pacific, a China willing to spend more or less limitlessly, and the smaller, poorer countries of the Pacific leveraging this largesse to run up the tab on their democratic partners. For Monocle Radio, I'm Andrew Mueller.